Let's get to the dirt mile, because you mentioned Spun to Run. The dirt mile, of course, that 1 mile event. Purse here was $1 million. Omaha Beach was the favorite, got bet down to even money for Dick Mandela. Dick had a terrific spring. He won the Rebel, he won the Arkansas Derby, then had to take some time off. Now, Dickie came back with a big performance.
He did.
Now, off a big layoff and a big performance, you going to bounce maybe?
Yeah, he's even money. I thought he was going to be overhyped and overbet. Both of those things happened. Certainly he's capable of winning.
Right.
I mean, he's a really talented horse. It was a horrible price, and there were some other really, really talented horses in there.
Dick, they continued to bet improbable. He's the second choice. He's 9-2, and Dick, with all of his talent this season, he is 1 for 6.
Yeah, I tossed him. He was an immediate toss for me. I saw enough here. He's his gait problems, and he's never been quite as good as everybody thought, as you just pointed out with your stat there, 1 win all year.
And Dick, now we get to Spun to Run. We mentioned last week that he did get some interest in the morning line at 6-1. Dick, that drifted up to 9-1 at post time. You got Irad Ortiz Jr., who is coming off that huge performance here at Parks in the Bellezzi Appreciation Mile.
Yeah, 110, biggest buyer speed figure all year by a 3-year-old going around 2 turns. People just didn't accept it. He couldn't do that, and he can't do it again. Right. Well, Carlos told Irad, don't fool around, because he didn't like some of the rides this horse had gotten recently. He said, just go. Well, watch.
Yeah, here's the dirt mile, and the call for $1 million. Spun to Run is 9-1.
Spun to Run, who's sent out to the early lead. Blue Chipper's got speed to the outside. It's these two, 1-2, making their way into the turn, and Cold Front settles in behind them. Then Improbable on the inside, who slips through an opening and now is 3.5 lengths off the lead. Mr. Money is 3 wide, then Snapper Sinclair. Omaha Beach is racing about 7 lengths behind as they make their way toward the backstretch. Diamond Oops is next, then Ambassadorial, and Giant Expectations is the trailer. 23:05 was the opening quarter mile. Spun to Run onto the backstretch in front. Korea's Blue Chipper is second, and he's a length and 3/4 behind. Mr. Money and Improbable heads apart, just ahead of Cold Front running along in 5th. Then a break of another 2 to Snapper Sinclair. Omaha Beach coming from well behind today. He's about 9 lengths off the lead, and now Mike Smith is starting to hand ride him a bit, trying to get him to go as they make their way into the turn. The half was 46.51. The Giant Expectations, Diamond Oops, and Ambassadorial. Spun to Run leads them along. He's been on top every step of the way, with Blue Chipper chasing him around that far turn. It's another 3 lengths back to Mr. Money. Omaha Beach is going to make his move on the far outside. He's floated very wide. He went 4 deep on the turn, but he's starting to pick it up, and they're into the stretch with Spun to Run and Cat. The one to catch coming to the 8th pole. Spun to Run drifting out with the lead. Blue Chipper on the inside is second. Omaha Beach has made his way up into 3rd, but Spun to Run has run away. Irad Ortiz and Spun to Run, the real deal of the dirt mile. They won it by 3.5 lengths.
Well, Dick, Spun to Run absolutely dominates the turf mile, gets out and leads every step of the way, comes home almost 3 lengths in front under Irad Ortiz Jr. Your $2 bet gets you $20.20 to win. Omaha Beach, who was pretty far off the pace, rallies for second. Number 8, Blue Chipper, finishes 3rd. Dick, Carlos Guerrero, Spun to Run, Bob Donaldson, just the win of a lifetime.
Yeah, look, when Carlos won the Smarty Jones here on Labor, that was his first graded stakes win. It was very, very emotional. Well, this was scads more emotional. You can imagine what the winner's circle scene was like. And Marshall Graham from 10 Strike is one of Carlos's owners here. He came down. He was very emotional. He was crying. Because, I mean, look, it's hard. These races are hard to win. I mean, really hard to win. And here's a horse that's off 3 weeks, off 3 weeks, off 3 weeks, and he keeps coming back. And yeah, he couldn't do a 110 this time, Keith. He only got a 109.
Oh, bummer.
He did it again. And I thought the Korean horse was amazing, Blue Chipper. They said he was the best horse in the history of Korea. None of us knew what that meant. Well, that meant he's a really good horse because he chased Spun to Run around. But nobody was getting to him. I don't care how far. And if you watch the gallop out, he was pulling back away. I mean, he was a wild horse. I read Ortiz said I was just a passenger. And Carlos said I thought the most poignant line was, this brings me to a whole new level as a trainer, and it really does. He's won a Grade 1, he's won a Breeders' Cup race. We around here knew how good he was. And now this horse, no telling what he could do. I don't know if they're going to run him anymore this year or not, to be determined. Man, as a 4-year-old, just think how good he's gotten in the last couple of months. And the difference, Carlos said, was once he put the blinkers on, everything changed.
Dick, Bob Donaldson, a great guy. In high school, he used to hop the fence with his wife, later wife-to-be, after sports, get in there for the last 2 races to bet the double at Garden State Park, and now he wins the Breeders' Cup.
Good for Bob. And Bob is the guy who told Carlos, hey, go bid on this horse. And Carlos doesn't normally do that. They bought him at Timonium Sales a couple of years ago. And look, we all love hard spun around here. The Pennsylvania Buddy's a really good sire. And it's a really, really good son of hard spun. And I do not think this horse has finished winning. This was some performance.
Dick, here's more in the post-race with Carlos Guerrero and the connections of Spun to Run.
I came out aggressive. I think too aggressive, to be honest. I go into the first turn trying to slow it down, and he don't want to come back to me. I say, oh, man, I probably sent it too much. Now I'm trying to slow it down. I don't know how the time was, but I feel like I'm going a little fast. And I keep fighting with him, but he don't want to come back to me. I just let him be there. I can hold it no more, so I just try to relax him and let him be. That was his pace. And then he just keep going.
I know that Carlos can read a horse and really can get inside their head. And his team is really such an added plus. You know, Jose is exercise rider, Eli is groom. Those guys really, and with Carlos, brought us here.
You are a lifelong racing fan. Just talk about starting off going to the races as a teenager and now owning a horse in the Breeders' Cup and winning the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Yeah, it's a dream come true. I mean, my wife and I used to jump the fence at Garden State when we were 14 after sports. we still had a chance to catch the 8th and the 9th.
I wasn't thinking about running Breeders' Cup, I'll be honest. You know, I was like, you know, I was telling people we might give him a little break. He's been running hard, blah, blah, blah. But then my groom is going, he's kicking the walls, he's jumping. And then I access my assistant is like, man, he's bouncing in the Chevrolet. And then I'm like, okay. And then I see my owner, and he says, what is this? I heard you want to give him a little time off. I said, well, you know, he's been running hard. And he says, well, I know you're the trainer, but give me a favor. Just tell me what you see every morning, training-wise. And I said, okay. So when we start training and I start seeing him, he's like, boss, he's training better than ever. Boss, he's doing this. Boss, he's doing that. And a week later, he says, we're going to the Breeders' Cup.
Well, we can't congratulate those guys enough. And Dick, for the little guy, Parks, how about 2 Breeders' Cup wins in 2 years?
Yeah, Jaywalk last year for John Service and the Cassius King guys in the greens, and she dominated in similar fashion to Spun to Run. She's in the Parks Hall of Fame. I think we can reserve a spot here for Spun to Run too, and he'll be our Parks Horse of the Year here. Obviously, because he's run here enough times that he qualifies. You can put him up as a unanimous choice.
Is there anything more than unanimous? Because he will be.
He will be a lot.